This fact that Mark's gospel aims to prove the divine identity of Jesus, his eternal or divine sonship, is further demonstrated by Mark's theme verses. I've mentioned that Mark 1 is the thesis statement, but it's actually just the beginning of a statement or an opening that continues through verse 3. Some translations will put a period at the end of the phrase Son of God, indicating that verse 2 is a new sentence. However, the fact of the matter is that the following word in Greek, which is kathos in the Greek, never begins a sentence. A simple sentence that begins with the Greek word kathos, just as, or as, it can be rendered either way, as or just as. Just as is the sense it best has here. But that never begins a new sentence. And in fact, it's always a way of saying this statement here, the full phrase, just as it is written, kathos ke graptai in Greek, is a way of saying that what has come before, namely the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, is being explained by the verses that follow. So the following verses explain what Mark just got through talking about. So it's going to confirm, among other things, it's going to confirm the divine identity of Jesus. I've claimed that the title Son of God is a way of indicating Christ's divine identity, but now Mark is going to give us a composite citation from Isaiah mixed with statement from Malachi and also Exodus 23. But he's going to give us a composite citation that explicates that first verse. He quotes Isaiah the prophet saying, "Behold, I'm sending my messenger before you who will prepare your way, the voice of one calling out in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord, make his paths straight." Here is a quote from Gulich in his commentary on Mark, just affirming the point that I'm making, just showing you that I'm not just telling you something that you can't verify if you haven't taken Greek. Gulich says, clearly, 1-2 clearly requires a close syntactical relationship with 1-1. First, kathos never introduces a sentence in either Mark or the rest of the New Testament documents. Second, when kathos occurs in a formula with gegraptai, which means it is written, it always refers to the preceding rather than the succeeding material. In other words, kathos gegraptai is a way of pointing back to the first verse and saying that these words that Mark is about to cite are referring back to this rather than forward into the narrative. Okay, so this is an explication of verse 1. So what is it that Mark tells us in his citation of Isaiah? What is it that he tells us about Jesus? Notice he identifies Jesus as the Lord. He speaks of a messenger going before him to prepare his way. And in the ensuing narrative, that messenger, that preparatory herald, is obviously John the Baptist. And he's preparing the way for the Lord Jesus. When we look back at Isaiah 40 and look at the underlying Hebrew text, the phrase for the Lord is the tetragrammaton. It's the divine name, Jehovah. Here, Mark takes an Old Testament Yahweh text, and by the way, every single one of the gospel authors cite Old Testament Yahweh texts and apply them to Jesus, and interestingly enough, every single one of them cite this passage from Isaiah. You often hear people claim that the gospel writers don't present a uniform picture of Jesus. A mistake that people make, not only because they've got motivation to want to think of these things as being inharmonious, but also because they want to have an excuse to reject their unified witness. And so if you can prove that they're not unified, well, then that goes the distance. It helps you feel like you're justified in rejecting what they say. But all of them, to a man, identify Jesus with Yahweh texts and even use the same Yahweh text in some cases. This is one example. Mark cites this, Matthew cites it, Luke cites it, and John cites it. So Mark tells us right out of the chute, right at the beginning, that this gospel identifies Jesus as a divine person. This gospel is about a divine person.